happening now in the sports world, you'll hear about it, all about it, on WHO Saturday SportsLine.
19 past 2 o'clock. This is WHO Saturday SportsLine. Larry Kotler and Mike Lee. We're visiting now with Jim Bouton, who has authored a piece in Inside Sports, the recent one, and that is about the great knuckleballer, Phil Niekro. Of course, he was the author of Ball 4, former Yankee pitcher, former Seattle Mariner pitcher. No, Seattle Pilots. Sorry about that, Jim. But first of all, Jim, welcome to the program. And I know that you are now in product development. You are not in TV doing sports as you were in New York for several years. Let's talk about the Phil Niekro piece a little bit, because I'm sure that was a lot of fun to do. Phil was with us last year, a very cooperative young man, and he's not that young anymore, but he's quite a pitcher. What did you find most interesting about Phil Niekro when you talked to him?
Well, his style, his personal style is very mellow and very laid back, and he's really an old-fashioned kind of guy. They don't make people like that anymore, or I haven't seen too many. He had the ability to spend 7 years in the minor leagues before he ever made it to the major leagues. Not a lot of young people are willing to put that kind of time in on something. They'll quit after a short period of time. Phil is from the pre-TV generation, and he's got an attention span that I think enables him to stay with a project or stay with an idea for a long period of time. And I think that's the key to his success. He was patient.
Jim, I would guess it was also interesting for yourself as a knuckleball pitcher to be able to talk to the guy that probably has the best knuckleball. Did he give you any tips?
Well, when I came up with the Braves in 1978, he tried to help me with my knuckleball, but there isn't much you can do, really, to help somebody. It's a very difficult pitch to throw. To try to throw a ball 60 feet without having it spin at all is a tricky feat. And you have to have the touch of a safecracker and the mind of a Zen Buddhist. And Niekro's got both of those things, and I didn't get the Zen part until quite late in my career. I kept trying to force the knuckleball and make it jump around, and probably I should have just relaxed and let it happen, which is the key to Niekro's success. He's so laid back that a knuckleball isn't difficult for him to throw. As he said, he just picks it up and tosses it like putting on a shirt. I think I tried to make it happen, and that's one of my problems that I had with it when I pitched for the Seattle Pilots.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting things Phil told us about last year when he was with us on WHO Saturday SportsLine. One of the things that I learned is that Niekro does not keep any sort of book on opposing hitters, because basically when he releases the knuckleball, he doesn't have any control over it. It's not a kind of pitch that you really can control. It's effective in prolonging your career, but there's really no need to keep a book on hitters because the baseball does the work.
You just throw the ball, and if it jumps around like it's supposed to do, nobody can hit it. Of course, if you throw it and it spins at all and the ball goes straight, then anybody can hit it. The trick is to keep it within the strike zone. So it really doesn't matter who's batting. When I was throwing knuckleballs, I remember it didn't matter to me who was hitting, because I was just trying to throw. I was really playing catch with the catcher.
You were just trying to get out alive, huh?
Just trying to keep the ball in the strike zone is what you try to do with that pitch.
We're talking with Jim Bouton on WHO Saturday SportsLine, a very wide-ranging freelance sort of discussion here for this particular hour. You can participate by calling 282-5111 here in town. Toll-free Watts line is 1-800-532-1111. Jim, you've done some freelancing work for Inside Sports. You've done TV work. You have talked with some ball players of the 1980s generation. Of course, you were playing perhaps in a generation that was not as obsessed by material gains as the players, I think, last year were when they decided to go on strike. I guess I'm setting you up for this particular question, and that is, have you noticed any changes in attitudes among players now versus when you were playing?
Well, I'd like to correct a few things that you said in your question. We were as obsessed with material gains as the players are today. We just weren't able to achieve any material gains. The reason we weren't able to is because the ball players of years ago had a special kind of a contract that prevented them from bargaining for their services like like every other American, can bargain for their services.
You could have gone on strike if you wanted to.
If you are offered a nice contract to work for a radio station across the street, and your contract is up, you got a 1-year contract, then you can go across the street, and if the guy's willing to pay you twice as much money, then you're free to do that. In baseball, players weren't free to do that. They couldn't go with anybody else. And the year I won 21 games, for example, the Yankees paid me $10,500. And when I told them I deserved more money, they said, "If you don't like it, quit." And they knew I couldn't. They knew I couldn't join another team, and so they were able to pay me whatever they wanted. Now, we players knew that was unfair, but we weren't able to do much about it until 1968, when we hired a guy by the name of Marvin Miller. It was Marvin Miller that educated the players and told them what would be their advantage if they fought this kind of special contract that the owners had and became free agents. Even the players didn't realize what they would be worth. And in 1975, when the ball players became free agents for the first time, they won a case in arbitration, where the arbitrator said the contract is unfair and baseball players should be free to bargain just like every other citizen. Of course, the owners started screaming and said, "We can't have that. Players will be jumping around from team to team. They'll all go to the richest teams, etc." And so the ball players said, "Okay, we'll compromise with you. Even though the arbitrator gave us free agency immediately, we will be willing to work for 6 years for a major league team before free agency." So in other words, if a player spends 3 years in the minors or 4 years in the minors and 6 years in the major leagues, that's effectively 10 years before he's free to go to another team. And what this did was it enabled some ball players anyway to bargain for them what they were worth in a free market for the first time.
So let me ask you this question, the one that I started out with. Are there any differences in attitude that you noticed between players when you were playing and the players now?
Differences in attitude in what respect?
Differences in attitude as respect to the freedom they think they have as far as peddling their talents.
Well, I think the players today, about the most disparaging thing I can say, I guess, if that's what you're looking for, is that the players don't appreciate the work that the older players did and that led to their free agency today. And I think a lot of the guys take it for granted that it's automatic that you can play a game and get paid $1 million a year. But in terms of whether that's fair or not, the ball players were not the ones that said, "Hey, pay us $1 million." They simply said, "Hey, we're free agents now. Who wants to pay me?" And it was the owners who bid up the prices of ball players. The first big contracts, the ball players were astounded. They couldn't believe that owners were willing to pay them $500,000, $750,000. The owners established the value of baseball players simply by bidding for them and by being willing to pay them those salaries. So what the other players that did have come along since then is they've used those salaries as a guideline for themselves. They've said, "Hey, listen, if this player's worth $1 million, then I'm worth half of that, or I'm worth twice that."
We're visiting with Jim Bouton on WHO Saturday Sports Line. 2825111 is our local line for Des Moines and surrounding suburbs. 1-800-532-1111, our toll-free statewide Watts line. Outside the state, 515-282-5120, and that call must be prepaid. Jim, looking at the strike situation last year, which became a very messy business, baseball took a month off out of the summer. Many people became resentful of the fact, not necessarily at one side or the other, or quite possibly both. What do you think the effects of the strike are? Many had felt that now you get back into a brand new season, you get a pennant race, and that people will still go out to the ballparks, and that it'll almost be forgotten.
I don't think the strike has had any effect whatsoever, and I said this during the strike. People said, "Well, isn't this going to ruin baseball?" I said, "No. People will forget about it 3 weeks later." Actually, I was wrong. They forgot about it 2 weeks later. Attendance is up all over the place, and for every person who says, "I'm never going to go to another ball game again because of the strike," there are 2 people who say, "Hey, gee whiz, a strike that closes down baseball and gets to be front page news on every newspaper in the country, that must be an important business. I think I'll go watch a couple of ball games this year." So I think they gain 2 for every one they lose. The owners used to say, fans don't identify with $1 million ball players. Nobody will come to watch a guy if he gets paid $1 million. But actually what happened was that the $1 million salaries made celebrities of baseball players and put them on a par with movie stars and rock stars, and more people came to see them than ever before. So the salaries have led to an increase in attendance, and the strike hasn't hurt attendance either. I'd just like to clear up one thing on the strike before you said about the players' strike. I think a lot of fans got the impression that the ball players went on strike because they want more money. This was a total misperception in the media. The ball players didn't go on strike because they wanted more money. They went on strike because they wanted to preserve the freedoms of the contract that they won through in 1975. They simply wanted to preserve that system, that the system that enabled them to bargain freely and make the money they're making. They weren't looking for more money. They simply wanted to preserve the system that they won in bargaining. And if they had to go on strike to do that, then that's what it took. They know they don't ever want to get to a situation again where owners can tell players that if they don't like it, they can quit, which is what the National Football League owners tell the football players.
Our guest during the segment of WHO Saturday Sports Line, Jim Bouton. Join us at 282-5111, 1-800-532-1111. Back in a moment.
Out of my way. Irene, put that typewriter down before you hurt...
Oh, my back.
Oh, Irene, why didn't you get someone from shipping to do that?
Guess I should have.
Okay, well, look, just sit there. Best thing I can do now is get you some Doan's pills.
Good advice. Doan's pills for temporary relief of simple backache pain due to overexertion, stress, or strain. Use only as directed.
Irene, I thought you went home.
Didn't have to. Those Doan's pills helped me get through the day.
Everybody complains about high finance rates, but now your Buick dealer has done something about them. Now when you buy any eligible Buick, you can take advantage of reduced finance rates by arranging your loan through your participating Buick dealer. He can get a 12.8 annual percentage rate for qualified buyers of any Buick ordered or purchased if delivered between now and May 31st. 12.8 annual percentage rate financing. See your Buick dealer today. Dealer contribution may affect consumer cost. Offer not available in Arkansas.
Tappan, all new in '82 and worth a closer look. Good cooks prefer cooking with gas. And now save money on every Tappan gas range at Pigeon's 2 Des Moines locations. R&W Tire and Appliance, Boone. Adel TV and Appliance, Adel. And Irvin Western Auto, Victor. Tappan stainless steel top gas range with automatic pilotless ignition, lift and lock recessed top for easy cleaning, black glass door and black broiler drawer. Now only $449 on this beautiful stainless steel top gas range. Tappan's 30-inch custom gas range with porcelain oven interior, porcelain burner box, broiler pan and insert, black glass door. Now only $549. Every Tappan gas range has pilotless ignition that saves on your utility bill. Every Tappan has closed door broiling, plus many more exclusive new features found only on Tappan ranges. Good cooks and great chefs prefer cooking with gas. Save on every Tappan gas range now at Pigeon's 2 Des Moines locations. R&W Tire and Appliance, Boone. Adel TV and Appliance, Adel. And Irvin Western Auto in Victor.
28 before 3, this is WHO Saturday Sports Line. Larry Cutler and Mike Lee with Jim Bouton during this segment of our show. And Jim, of course, you've been over in New York and you played with the Yankees, and I'm sure you followed the Yankees throughout the years. And they've got now what is known as the Bronx Zoo, George Steinbrenner, just changing things around from year to year. How do you look at that situation? Now they are struggling. They've switched the emphasis from power to speed. How do you look at the Bronx Zoo?
Well, I personally hope that the Yankees lose the pennant, because I don't think I don't like to see George Steinbrenner be rewarded for his methods. I don't think he's good for sports. I think he's bad for sports in America, and I think he's bad for baseball. I think he has been one of those people that has helped elevate winning at all costs to the point where people now don't think of sports as a fun thing anymore. The whole country is so obsessed with winning that kids can't go out, for example, and play a ball game unless they win. They haven't enjoyed themselves. You ever watch a game with kids now, the losing team walks off with their heads hanging down because they think they've done something terrible, and they feel like failures as people. And it's people like George Steinbrenner and what the media does in glorifying the George Steinbrenners and the Woody Hayeses and the John McEnroes by saying they can do anything they want as long as they win. Hey, that's the bottom line, right? The guy's a winner.
Jim, I saw some letters in the recent edition of the Sporting News that I thought were interesting. Fans of the Yankees who were writing in, and they were complaining about George Steinbrenner much in the same way that you are. And what they're saying is, George, sure you want to win, but we'd rather lose a little bit and maintain the class and integrity that has been the New York Yankees rather than win at all costs.
Well, there are a few fans that feel like that, but unfortunately, I think most fans feel, hey, we want a winner. We don't really care how it's done. And, we deserve a winner. We're New Yorkers. We're better than everybody. Of course, in Chicago and St. Louis and Minnesota, they feel the same way. Hey, we deserve a winner. We're better people. And so you got everybody in the country thinking they deserve winners all the time, and if they don't get winners, then their team has let them down. Unfortunately, only one team out of 26 can win at all anyway, so you end up with 25 disappointed towns. But it's unfortunate that sports has to be disappointing to people. You go by a bunch of kids playing tennis, and they're throwing their rackets down and stomping off the court because they see John McEnroe doing that. Or they see George Steinbrenner treating people the way he does just in order to win. I think it's not a good idea.
Our guest is Jim Bouton on WHO Saturday Sports Line, and you're free to participate in the program by dialing us up at the toll-free Watts line, 1-800-532-1111 if you're outside the Des Moines metro area. Inside the Des Moines metro area, the number to call is 282-5111. I think a happier moment to talk about in baseball happened just a couple of weeks ago. Gaylord Perry, the ancient Mariner, got his 300th career victory. That's quite an accomplishment for a man who's in his early 40s anyway, and he still is going strong. What's your reaction to Gaylord Perry's accomplishments?
I think it's tremendous, and I'm very happy for Gaylord. I think it's great, and I like the idea that people are not washed up when they're 43 years old, and I just think it's terrific.
Another topic I'd like to bring up, since we are just sort of freelancing here with you, Jim, the Illinois legislature recently, I think, if I'm not mistaken in this, passed a law whereby the Chicago Cubs would not be allowed to install lights at Wrigley Field. But, however, there was a grandfather clause which allowed teams which already played after dark to continue playing after dark. That was a very sneaky way of getting around that whole thing, I guess. But I've read Dallas Green saying that he thinks nighttime baseball, its time has arrived for the Chicago Cubs. Purists say that it has not arrived yet and it never will arrive for Wrigley Field. How do you feel about nighttime baseball versus daytime baseball in general?
Oh, I don't know. I guess in many ways I'm an old-fashioned traditionalist when it comes to that. I like the old stadiums, for one thing. I don't like this move to the new round stadiums that look like coliseums. I like the friendly atmosphere at Tiger Stadium and at Fenway Park and the old Yankee Stadium, and I don't like the new stadiums. And I also like the old traditions. I like the ivy on the walls in Chicago, and I like the fact that they don't have lights. I think we should preserve traditions. I think we should keep our old buildings and some of our old institutions. I think it's important in a world that's changing so fast that we have something to hang on to. I hope the Chicago Cubs never put lights in their field.
Jim, you came from an era, and I guess what I'm going to go roundabout on this, but it seems like anymore, if an athlete is colorful, first of all, they label that person controversial, and it becomes a big topic of conversation, such as talk shows on this manner, and usually ends up getting criticized. But it seems like you come from an era where, well, when it was colorful, people enjoyed it. And I know you had some good times with the Yankees and the Pilots.
Oh, yes. I think you can be colorful without being controversial. I think there are a lot of colorful people who are controversial, guys like Bill Lee, for example. But Mark the Bird Fidrich wasn't controversial, and he was a very colorful guy. So I think I don't think the two necessarily have to go together.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. You took the words right out of my mouth. Mark Fidrich, a man who is trying to make a very brave, valiant comeback once again. For my part, I hope he makes it. He seems to have all the potential there to be a big league pitcher. And it's that doggone arm that just is the biggest problem that he has. I guess it's the arm that... Does the arm give out first, Jim, speaking as a former pitcher?
Yep. It's not a natural motion. It's not natural for the human body to throw a baseball 100 miles an hour 150 times a week, and so it's going to put a strain on some guys. And sometimes people's arms give out when they're 17 in high school, and sometimes sometimes they cave in when they're in the minors, and sometimes guys lose it somewhere in the major leagues. I think the fact that Fidrich ran into arm trouble so early simply underlines the fact that it's important for the ball players anyway to get as much money as they can for such a short period of time, because they know that one throw and their career could be over. That's what Valenzuela was thinking about, and almost everybody else that's in sports. Most people only see the athletes who make it. They don't realize that for every athlete that makes it to the major leagues and stays there 10 years, there are hundreds and thousands of athletes who go all the way up through the minor leagues and even get to the big leagues and never make it past that.
We'll visit more with Jim Bouton when we return in just a moment.
Is Fuller O'Brien paint really on sale?
Sure is.
Which colors?
Well, there's lemon swizzle, brandied rose.
Our foolproof interior latex is on sale for $9.99 in 685 colors.
Petal, cool
685 colors.
Mist.
That's hundreds more than most paint companies have ever sale priced.
Arabian Nights.
For quality paint at $9.99, visit a participating Fuller O'Brien Pro Shop. But hurry, it's hard to decide.
River.
Could you run through those colors again?
No matter what you make, hey, make it great with strawberries in it. Something light and pretty and bright, and it only takes a minute. Freeze 'em, shake 'em, sugar 'em, bake 'em. Any way you make 'em makes it clear that California strawberries give you very good ideas. Strawberries give you lots of berries. Strawberry good, very good ideas.
Sponsored by the California Strawberry Advisory Board.
Des Moines?
Yeah?
Here I am again.
Hi, how are you?
I just wanted to remind you to go shopping.
What do you mean?
Go shopping and use the American Express card.
How come? What's the idea?
Because each time you use the card in Des Moines from now till June 15th, American Express will make a contribution to the Science and Industry Center.
Wow, not bad.
35 cents to the Science and Industry Center each time you use the American Express card.
Hey, that's all right.
Of course, 35 cents may not sound like much, but if you all get together, it'll really add up. So go ahead, Des Moines, buy a whole new wardrobe. Get a gift for your grandmother. The more you do, the more American Express can do for the center.
Okay, we'll try. We'll do our best.
Oh, and Des Moines?
Yeah?
If you don't have the American Express card, don't let that stop you, because for every person in Des Moines who gets the card this month, the Science and Industry Center will get $2.
That's swell. I like that.
Thanks for listening, Des Moines, and thanks for shopping.
That's okay.
See you soon.
Use the American Express card at the Rusty Scalper, 2600 Grand.
And we're back on WHO Saturday Sports Line. Standing by right now, Jim Bouton. We have a final question to throw along to Jim. I do anyway, and then Larry can ask a final question, and we'll wrap things up. If there's any one thing in baseball right now that you'd like to see changed, Jim, I realize that you're a purist and you'd like to go back to some of the old things and keep things steady as far as the Chicago Cubs ballpark is concerned, for example. But if there's any one thing that you would like to see changed in the rules or just the general atmosphere of the game, what would it be?
Well, if I could change one thing, I would make the baseball commissioner an elected position. I think the sports writers should nominate a number of people, and I think the fans should vote on who the commissioner is. I think then he could be rightly called the commissioner of baseball. Right now, with the commissioner chosen by the owners, paid by the owners, and fired by the owners, he represents the short-term financial interests of whoever happens to be owning a baseball team at the moment, and not the long-range interests of baseball at heart and all fans.
Jim, you had a good career with the Yankees primarily, and then, of course, you played with the Braves and the Pilots. What do you most remember about your major league career?
Oh, I guess just walking across the field before a game with the organ music playing and all those people looking down and the lights on, and just seeing how good it felt to walk across in a major league uniform and say, hey, I'm in the major leagues.
So just playing Major League Baseball was actually your highlight?
I'd say so. Just being there.
Okay, we do have time for one more question. Any advice to people who are 17 to 22, let's say, looking forward to a major league or a minor league baseball career?
Yes. Find some other interests in your life, because the odds of making it are tremendous. The odds against making it are great, and you need some other interests and other things to fall back on if it doesn't work out for you in sports.
Excuse me. Oh, well, we got a little cough there. Jim, finally, any predictions on who's going to win the World Series this year? I know we talked about not making predictions, but
no, I don't. I don't have any predictions.
Can't put you on the spot.
Can I take the 30 seconds that I have left?
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Tell you about my product development company?
Please do.
Because one of my products is something you guys might be interested in. It's called Big League Chew, shredded bubble gum in a pouch.
I know what that is, yes.
And that has become the fastest-selling bubble gum in the U.S., and it was an idea that my partner and I thought up 5 years ago out in the bullpen in Portland, Oregon. We were looking for something that looked as good as tobacco in a big wad in your mouth, but also didn't make you sick. We came up with shredded bubble gum.
Well, thanks, Jim. Very good. Jim, it sells big around here. It really does. That's Jim Bouton. Now, the sports update from the AP.